All right, welcome to another episode of Building Tech Talk. And today we're joined with Matt Grieve, the president of Maggnum Ventures. And we have Scott Jenkins, CEO of ZS2 Technologies, and Doug Brown, Dr. Doug Brown, the CTO at ZS2 Technologies, our two resident experts. And thanks for joining us, Matt. This is really a great time to talk to you about what's going to be coming up for the development world.
No problem at all. Happy to be here.
And so just to get us started, what's Maggnum Ventures? What are you guys working on right now?
Well, I can give you a bit of background on who we are and what we do. So I started Maggnum Ventures in 2009. My previous experience has been in real estate development. I worked with Oxford Properties, which is owned by OMERS, which is a big pension fund out of Toronto. So sort of cut my teeth on that. I was involved with developing a really cool building in Eau Claire called Centennial Place. Then went on with a private company out of Edmonton called Westcorp, and did some developing with them all over Western Canada, specifically London at Heritage Station, which was a really interesting time in my life because we built the first building in the good times, and then the whole crash happened, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, and then we built the second tower. So I learned a lot in that time about development, and that's sort of when I decided to go out on my own. So I decided to put a little bit, what little money I had at the time, to work and start a development company. And so what we do actively, I would say actively 80% of my business is real estate development and ownership. We generally source out the management of our buildings, and my goal was a building a year that we would own at least 50% of, and develop from ground up. We did some acquisitions as well, and we've been able to do that, which has been good. And then about 20% of my our portfolio would be, I would say, more passive investments. So we have a bit of a mandate, I would say, to invest in what I think are good tech companies such as this. Our first acquisition, actually, or partnership, wasn't in real estate. It was actually a software company out of Edmonton called Yardstick Software. So my big, hairy, audacious dream was to get into real estate, and I got into software immediately, and it worked out quite well. So that was a online training and testing software, and it's been really good to us, and still going on. But so right now we got about, I think, 8 buildings that we own a part of in Western Canada. We're in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and it's been a good ride. The last year and a half has been very interesting. We do have some hospitality in our portfolio, which obviously has been hit pretty hard because of the pandemic. So I would say that, most of our stuff is relationship development. So we know usually somebody that wants to partner with us and do development. And I would say what our goal is to build stuff that is under $50 million that REITs and pension funds don't want to take the risk to develop. So we would take that risk to develop, and then it would be a very palatable acquisition for a REIT or pension fund. So, in our world, the number $50 million is huge. In the world of big real estate or any real estate, it's that small. So we would consider ourselves a small developer, family-owned boutique company. So,
but interesting thing, Matt and I, I'm so glad you're here because
I hope I'm not rambling, Scotty.
No, there's no rambling whatsoever. But is an interesting thing for our audience of Building Tech Talk is you're a developer. You've kind of given us the size, commercial, hospitality, but also in many projects you remain as an owner. So you then, and in some cases, become the operator. So you're looking at projects from a different lens.
Correct.
It's not just a quick flip, build something cheap. You're thinking about
how do
we generate value here?
Correct. And, that was one of the things that sort of got me excited, or continues to get me excited about working in Western Canada, is I do believe, and this is not a slight to anybody, but, during the good times, stuff got built fast. cheap, and I wouldn't say it looks all that great. Go to Toronto right now and you'll see a whole lot of curtain wall. Not that that's bad, but it's, it is what it is. So, we want to make sure not only that we want to build something that we would sell, perhaps, we want to keep too, and we're proud of.
Yeah.
So we're not in the market of just throwing stuff up and walking away. I want to be sure that I want to keep everything I want to build. And if somebody wants to buy it and it works out for the way that we want to sort of finance the rest of our world, we want that to be, something that somebody would like to acquire and have a good cap rate. And then, probably have less of a replacement cost. Right. So that's pretty important for selling a building.
Matt, as a developer owner, I find you're sort of uniquely positioned to look at full life cycle returns on buildings. Have you done any buildings where you've considered solar or any sort of LEED credits that may have paybacks on sort of those longer timeframes that someone who just sort of develops the building and washes their hands of it maybe doesn't have an option to pursue?
We achieve LEED on all our buildings.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So we haven't gone for the gold or anything like that, but we definitely achieve LEED on all our projects for sure. I think it's important. Sustainability is, what we want to produce, and we want to recycle. It's sort of funny, this is off topic, but I'm involved in a waste management company as well. And, that our focus is, it's not even waste management anymore. We're called local environmental services now, because it's all about, recycling and, doing landfills properly and whatnot.
Diverting waste from the landfills.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's
so I would say that
business.
we're like everybody else. We want to achieve a good financial balance sheet, but at the same time, we want to be around for a while, and we want to do what's best for, the environment for sure.
So when you're looking at doing a build and you're looking at it from the lens of, I want to keep this building, I'm not just throwing it up quick and selling it. What is it about the build that you look at for the long term that makes a difference, that separates you from that build that would normally be a quick sell?
Well, usage is the first thing you got to look at, right? What are you building? Is it, I don't do anything in industrial, not because I don't like it. I think the guys that do that are fantastic at it. It's for sort of odd in the real estate market is the industrial guys sort of stick to industrial stuff. And the guys that do sort of everything else sort of do everything else, but they don't really go into industrial too much. So I don't really go into industrial. I'll just be clear on that. So when I look at usage, I want to understand, what I can do on the site, civically. And then once you've made that decision, you want to find out, what's the need in the area. So then you'll go down into, okay, is it office? Is it mixed use? Is it going to be hospitality, retail, whatever? And then from there, you want to, find out what your FAR is, which is a floor area ratio. So that's how high you can go, how dense you can be. And based on that, that'll usually tell you what you're going to end up building. Is it going to be stick? Is it going to be slab on grade? Are you going to be building, 10-story building or 3-story building? And all that matters as to what you're going to do, because you're not going to do, a big concrete building that's usually 2 stories, you'd probably do a little bit of stick and maybe some concrete on the main level. So you got to look, it's a good question, but it's a question based on usage. And from there, I would say, what are you going to do? You're going to do parking. Like right now, there's a huge conversation about parking in the cities, like right now with rideshare. I don't want to say
public
the
transit,
scooters, but the locusts, I call them. There's not as much of a need for the big, parking, but at the same time there is in the winter months. So,
the bike lanes don't get used as much in December and January.
They don't, but I use them in the summer, so I'm not a bike lane hater.
Yeah,
I like my bike. It is electric, I must admit. So, to answer your question, I think what you want to do is you want to build a solid building with the materials that work best. Alternative materials like what you guys are doing here at ZS2 is exactly what we would be looking for. But as a developer, you got to remember, we're not the designer and we're not the contractor, right? So although we pretty much are the money. So we would be the guys that come up with the money, come up with the idea. We go get a designer, or a architect. Usually I like to work with great architects that are forward looking. And from there, then you go and find out what you can put in there. And then once you go find somebody you can put in there, you go and hopefully get a lease. And once you get a lease, you get into that process of,
Right.
construction. And that's where you guys come in. And that's where the options start coming towards the developers way. And we do have a budget and we run off performance, and, we have to be cognitive of that. But, there's a fine middle ground. You can build, if you're in Winnipeg, for instance, and this is no slight of Winnipeg, but you could build, a $500,000 door hotel, but you're still going to get $180 a night for it. Right. Like, that's a market in Winnipeg. So you gotta watch what you're building, because
The revenue
numbers got to
to
pencil.
Well, how I was gonna ask, because from a development, when one of the reasons I was so excited to have you on the podcast was, my understanding and knowing Matt for a long time and the business is it's a financial model, first and foremost. And I thought it'd be a great opportunity for us to chat about prefab technologies and speed. So if we, technologies that can help decrease that speed of construction, that's going to help in terms of the finance, in terms of cost of capital,
Absolutely.
Borrowing costs, leverage, and then the ability to potentially take it, for a lot of developers and some of the residential developers that we're talking with, taking it from, 500 homes a year to 600 homes a year. Not, in addition to obviously resilient, sustainable, higher performance, but, from a purely economic basis, the importance of prefab. So,
I think it's great. I think anything that you can do to, make the process quicker and more finite is great, and I would actually put it to like a question to Scott. Like, you were with Dirt for a long time. Like, there you go with, some prefab, work. I would say, and I don't know this, but that was expensive stuff.
It's actually, it's a great, quick conversation is, Dirt, environmental solutions, prefab interiors, premium product. A lot of our customers love the look and feel, flexibility, but ultimately what helped us grow the company from 6 million to 300 million in sales and throughout North America and then internationally was the speed. The clients love the speed, cost certainty, and time certainty.
Well, that's it. Because all what the developer looks at is, like, when we talk to a contractor, it's on time, on budget. And you can go and talk to, a buddy in a pickup truck to build your building, and he'll build your building, but I'd be pretty darn worried about bonding and understanding that this guy can achieve what he's going to do, what he says he can achieve. That's why we don't do design build. I would never do a design building ever again. I've done it. I've been burnt. I think if you do a fixed price contract with a contractor and you know what you're doing, you spend that time and money choosing the materials, understanding what you're going to build, not doing change orders. I know contractors that have big boats that they're called change order, and that's not a joke.
Yeah.
So, if you as a developer can actually take that time and get the, your ducks in a row early, then of course you can go out and do that prefab stuff. And then once that starts going, and I'm not saying it's building blocks, it's far more complicated than that, but you can actually have a lot more security on your time and your budget. And that's what it comes down to. That's why people pay, and I'm being biased here, PCL, a higher percentage, because they know they're not the cheapest. They'll tell you straight up, we're not the cheapest guys in town, but they're going to be on time. On time, on budget.
Mitigate the risk.
Yeah, or you can go with a new guy, and then this is a whole different conversation. I tend to ramble, so just stop me if I do. But there's great contractors that go to new cities, and they don't have the relationship with the trades to have the success they do in other places. So you got to be pretty smart with all that stuff, especially prefab, which is relatively new. Do you have the trades to put it all together there?
Mm-hmm.
And is that something you would say that, we talked about what you select your builders and your designers? Is that your number one, is on time, on budget? That's what you care about the most?
I would say you're a coach, right? It's a team. You got to put the whole team together and you run the team. That's what you do. It's sort of what you guys do, right? Like you get the best team you can. And I'm talking from, your team within the development the architectural company, then the GC, I would want to be involved with what the GC is picking as far as their
subs.
Their subs, not even subs, like who's their super, who's their site super. You can go for the big guys, but if they're busy as heck and you end up with some green site super or project manager, doesn't matter who's signing the bills, who's paying their paycheck, what's the experience of those two guys on site? That's what I'd be really important for me.
This is the one thing, we talk to a lot of our clients and partners about their days, even actually going back to my Pure Technologies days, when we're doing, installs for the post-tension buildings or pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipeline projects. It's all about the team, but there's so many people on that team with different skill sets. You really gotta
dig into the team.
You really gotta dig in the team, into their team. It's important. Construction development is a complex ecosystem, to kind of throw out one of those catchphrases. And there's a lot of people at the table, and you get somebody who's green or inexperienced. That's where I think prefab can help, because you're kind of consolidating so much of maybe the subs, and the installation can go so much easier. So you can have less skilled labor.
Yeah, but go out there, visit the sites, find out what they're doing, walking in here, seeing what you guys are doing. I'm an investor in this company, and, it was interesting to go see what you guys are doing in the back there and how you're going to expand and, grow. And, that's what you got to get your head around and understand what you're doing. And then, hey, ask all the questions. I've learned that long time ago.
And keep asking.
Ask the dumbest questions.
So when we're talking about working with your contractors, and in the last year, you just said a little while ago, the last year and a half has been a little interesting. Has that been a challenge for you as a developer, with lack of trades, lack of labor, some ups and downs, obviously?
Yeah, like we haven't developed a lot in the last while, and we have a building that is ready to go in Regina, but that's purely built on leasing. You know what I mean? Like nobody was signing leases over the last year. We have a building we've built the exact same building 3 times. We know exactly what we're going to do. It's going to be easy build. We can pump it out in 8 months. It's a 60,000 square feet building in Regina, in Harbor Landing, which is right outside of the Hills Harbor Landing. We got the business park there. Great spot. But until somebody signs that lease, it's going to be, I can't go get financing. So, that's the issue right now. And then you can have that conversation about financing, which is a whole nother conversation. Like hotels, we've been chasing hotels. Scotty knows that. 60-40 right now. So you got to put 60% of the money up. That's
wow.
That's crazy. So, a lot of stuff is stalled because of that world right now. And, it's
and to be determined. We don't
an empty building has no cap rate.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, it's been a crazy year. What we've been doing is internally managing what works, buying out partners in buildings that are great, divesting stuff that may not be working, focusing on the portfolio and understanding what works best. And that's been great. It's been great for our little business. And to be honest, our business has been doing well because of that. It's given a lot of people a lot of opportunity to sit back and go, okay, let's take a step back and see what's working, what's not working. Hey, we got hospitality. We're not going to walk away from hospitality. It's going to be fine at some point. But did this 1 year and a half, or likely 2 years, will it knock revenues back 3? Will it take 5 to get back to a normal stabilized world? Probably. Right now, I think they're saying, I know they're saying, Cushman Wakefield is saying 2024 is when they think that the hospitality hotel world will be stabilized again.
Wow.
Matt, from a mindset of, emerging from a pandemic, hopefully, knock on wood, do you see a permanent shift in I know in Calgary, we were already seeing 1 in 3 vacant towers downtown. Do you see this sort of decentralization continuing in sort of your path forward? And is that affecting your business model at all?
Well, yeah, of course. Like when you look at what's gone on specifically, I think in the oil and gas world, I'm not in it, but I know a lot of people just being in the city. You know, the big companies that have figured out how to work without having the overhead that they once had, and are now with prices getting a little bit more stabilized in the oil world. They're not just going to start hiring you know, double the people because they want to. They figured it out.
Mhm.
They figured out how to achieve, good returns with less overhead. That's not going to change. They're not going to go back
They
to
were probably bloated
they were
before.
bloated before.
Yeah.
And they're not going to give every second Friday off to every employee and free lunches and stuff like that. Unfortunately, it's not necessary to retain people right now. So, um, that goes into the whole other conversation about finding people. Like right now,
Mhm.
finding people to work is
But
very
like
difficult.
your development at Harbor Landing in Regina, and I've been there. It's a wonderful project. This is Regina, Saskatchewan. It's near the airport. It's not downtown Regina, which is a smaller downtown footprint. And it's in a really attractive place, like for some of your tenants to be. It's easier for parking, uh, transportation for people commuting. It's easy access to the airport and the other business parks. I think we're going to see more of that decentralization. I think where people can live and work closer. They also don't maybe have to be in the office all day. These big companies have figured that out.
Yeah.
How to have a much more flexible workforce. Obviously, it's at us too. We're that way. Ever since day zero, we were that way.
It'll be a hybrid, I think, but I do believe in my heart of hearts that if people want to succeed within a company, that being face to face and understanding each other and having relationships will help people grow if that's what you want to be. If you're trying to get into a C-suite situation and grow, I think you're going to want to be in an office where you're going to want to see
Face-to-face is
face to
still,
face is
yeah.
good. Hey, listen, if you're a coder and you put a headset on at the start of the day and take it off at the end, you can do that from home.
Yeah.
So it depends on what you're doing, I guess.
All right, we're just about out of time. So just one last thing to kind of take out our crystal balls today and have a look forward at, from a developer's point of view, with all the sustainability regulations coming in, code changing to land uses and codes. What are you seeing in the next 5 years for that will change your business, how you look at selecting your buildings, selecting your builders, your designers? Is there anything coming in the next little while that you're looking ahead at that you need to prepare for as a developer in that world?
Well, that's a great question. Right off the bat, I would say what we were just speaking about, what people want to be in. How many people want to be in an office. Like, I think you're going to go away from the bullpens. I think you're going to end up having more traditional offices, 6 feet offices with doors to close, stuff like that. As far as, achieving leads, like I'll tell you right now, when you're selling a building, people ask that question, is it lead? And the reason why they ask that question, if you're selling it, is because your tenants are asking that question, right? So they want to be in it. So, I hate to say this, but like the tenants wag the tail. So you got to do what they want, and that tenant is you guys here or me downtown or Tim Hortons. So you got to look at what the tenants want, and they want sustainability. They have a whole bunch of people and investors that want to see that people are trying to offset what's going on in the world right now, which is some climate issues and sustainability issues.
So the tenants
Yeah.
are the consumers, and the consumers are driving
Correct.
the
They ask them the
behaviors.
questions.
They're saying,
that's
look, I want to be in a building that I know has a lower carbon footprint, is more resilient, is safer, is
100%.
healthier.
100%. And that's just going to keep going. That's going to get
Yeah.
even more and more and more and more. Look at Apple, biggest company in the world. I think they're aiming for zero emissions in the next few years as a company.
It's a big task. And
Big
it starts
task.
if we think about all their stores, their retail, their
But that
distribution
big
warehouses
halo they built
in Palo Alto or Cupertino or down in California.
is supposed to be. I'd die to go see that building. That
Yeah.
thing that's probably the best you can do.
Yeah.
But people want that.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. And it was a really
Yeah,
interesting
thanks a lot,
conversation.
Matt.
Thanks, man.
Sorry if I went to.
It was great having you.
It was a great conversation. And remember to subscribe on YouTube to Building Tech Talk or podcasts on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We'll see you next time.